Welcome to The Blindsided Scholar. Today I want to discuss wildlife conservation and why all the extinction alarmists have it wrong. Recently, a video went viral about a young polar bear starving. It was heartbreaking to say the least. With global warming, trash-filled oceans, deforestation, urban sprawl, and monocrop farming, it seems the Earth's ecology is doomed to die. From the website Center for Biological Diversity, it says, "It's frightening but true. Our planet is now in the midst of its sixth mass extinction of plants and animals. We're currently experiencing the worst spate of species die-off since the loss of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago." End quote. That does sound frightening, but let's take a step back and try looking at it from a different perspective. This Earth is around 4.5 billion years old. The first 3.5 billion years, the atmosphere transformed from a poisonous methane and ammonia-rich atmosphere to a carbon dioxide and nitrogen-rich atmosphere that had no oxygen. 1 billion years ago, some algae started growing in the oceans and started converting the CO2 into oxygen by a new process called photosynthesis. This set off a massive ecological disaster that killed off most of the biological forms of life because they were anaerobic. Only 500 million years ago, oxygen-dependent, land-based life forms were able to develop. In just the past 500,000 years, there have been 5 ice ages that have covered large parts of the Earth in ice. In terms of climate change, this had a dramatic impact on the Earth's ecology. Life had to be able to adapt from the mild temperatures we enjoy today to much colder temperatures during the ice ages. This shows that the Earth's ecology has been constantly changing, and the wildlife had to continually adapt as well. As an example, if we look at the Yorkshire area in England, 15,000 years ago, it was completely covered by a sheet of ice. The ice sheet melted and formed the largest inland lake in the UK. The lake then drained out and formed large grasslands. Over time, the temperatures continued to rise and the grasslands morphed into forests. Then man showed up and turned it into an agricultural landscape. So within this 15,000 year period, the wildlife had to dramatically adapt to the shifting climate and vegetation. Things are still shifting today as the Earth's ecology never stands still. When conservationists use the word natural, what do they mean? Most likely they are trying to convey the idea of when the Earth is in some sort of ecological harmony, a state where everything is the most optimized, the way things should be. Conservationists look at the evidence such as historical records or fossil records to determine what is natural, then argue we need to restore the wildlife and land to its natural state. This quickly turns into a quandary of unanswerable questions. How does one determine what is natural? Do you pick a time before urban sprawl, before the Industrial Revolution, before the invention of agriculture, when mankind began to change the landscape, or before humankind hunted the woolly mammoth, rhinos, and saber-toothed tigers to extinction? The problem is, the farther back in time you go, the more the entire ecosystem has changed, from the vegetation, climate, insects, and network of animals. There's no possible way to restore things to the way they were before humans arrived. So conservationists pick some point in time that favors the animal they are concerned with, and call it part of the land's natural habitat. This portrays the idea that there's some so-called perfect point in time that is Earth's true natural state. However, maybe we shouldn't imagine an idealized Earth in some non-existent natural state, because the only thing natural to the Earth's ecology is change. Humans didn't recently come along and start changing things for the first time. The Earth has always been changing and always will. While most wildlife conservationists accept that extinction is normal, they claim humans are causing the rate of extinction to go up dramatically. This is true. While the extinction rate hasn't risen to past catastrophes such as when the Yucatan Peninsula was hit by an asteroid, they are high. It is tragically sad to see so many animals and plants disappear, never to be seen again. To combat this trend, conservationists take 3 main approaches. First, they protect species that are struggling. Second, they help breed and reintroduce species to locations they used to inhabit. And third, they try to rid ecosystems of invasive species that are new to an area. While their efforts are noble, I suggest we should consider tweaking our mindsets and how we approach wildlife conservation. Instead of trying to restore things back to some imaginary natural state, we accept that humans have an impact on Earth and that there is no going back. When protecting species using the first approach, we should concentrate on species that can survive on their own. For example, bald eagles were saved by banning DDT. This was a simple change that allowed the eagles to recover largely on their own. If humans have to go to extreme lengths to save a species, and they will go extinct as soon as we stop helping, we should consider option 2 or accept the inevitable. On approach 2, once again, we should only consider reintroducing species into former habitats if they can thrive on their own. Reintroducing wolves into Yellowstone was a great success. If introducing the species to a previous habitat is unlikely to be successful, consider introducing the species to new habitats. One example would be African game being bred in Texas. They are thriving in Texas, where in Africa they are threatened. This approach irritates many conservationists because it is unnatural. I've already suggested we need to get over the idea that certain things are natural. If an animal can thrive in a habitat, it automatically becomes natural. On the third approach, there are many efforts to kill invasive species, such as the pythons in Florida. In reality, there is no way to kill all the pythons in the Florida Everglades. Despite all the rhetoric, invasive species rarely kill off local species. While the pythons will certainly impact native species, they are unlikely to go extinct. The native species of the Everglades are adapting to this new predator and will likely evolve in response. In fact, the cross-contamination of species has occurred since the beginning of time. It is natural and a normal event. Humans have accelerated this effort beyond what has happened in the recent past. However, the very act of cross-contamination is what drives a large part of the diversification of species. The number and diversity of species is growing because of crossbreeding and evolutionary pressure driven by these invasive species. I'm certainly not advocating we ignore the many serious issues facing our planet's ecosystem. I am advocating we take a realistic approach that will most likely lead to a positive outcome. The media tends to focus on all the negative aspects, particularly on certain large animals struggling with extinction. However, in many ways the planet's wildlife has adapted amazingly well to a human-driven world, and in most habitats, species diversification has gone up, not down. No matter what you like to do out in nature, if it is watching birds, fishing, hiking, photography, hunting, or just watching the weather from the inside of your home, I think we can all agree that when we take the time to notice the world around us, we find and see amazing, stunning, and awe-inspiring animals in nature. As humans, we have changed the world, every continent, ecosystem, and corner. Trying to roll everything back is futile, but unlike any other animal, we can, as a collective whole, make a cognitive decision to change how we impact the world around us. What approach do you feel is the best option? Let's hear your comments below. I don't have time to discuss these issues in depth and justify many of my thoughts on wildlife conservation. However, the views in this video are inspired by the book Inheritors of the Earth: How Nature is Thriving in an Age of Extinction by Chris Thomas. I highly recommend it to those interested in learning more on the topic. With that, I'll sign off by saying, remember to be kind, keep learning, and to look for those opportunities you can change the world for the better. Thank you for watching The Blindsided Scholar.